And the show begins with Dustin click-clacking his fingers on the keyboard there. Click-clacking.
Clicking-clacking.
Turn that baby monitor off. Get some... Anyway, hey, everybody. Welcome to, I guess, the HooperCast. We still haven't figured out what our name is, but whatever it is, this is episode 138. It's live. I'm Connor Dempsey, your host, and that is Dustin Weldon, your host. Hi, Dustin.
Hey, Hooper. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Sweet. How is everybody out there in cyberspace?
Don't
no
know.
Answer.
I'm hoping that the live stream is working the way it's supposed to. So I'm just going to close some of these windows because I will just be distracted the entire time by it. So I'm just going to leave it alone. And
Gotcha.
I know that it's running, so that's all I really need to close some of these windows because there we go. It works. And that will show up on the live stream. It'll be a crazy little echo of itself because of the way the audio is set up. So, hey, everybody.
Right.
Welcome to the show. It is Monday night, and I'm feeling all right.
Yeah, you sound okay. You coughed in the middle of that, so I'm curious.
I don't know what's up with that. Could be getting sick. I don't know. So let's press on ahead here, Dustin. We've got some. Last week we had some film news, and it was good. But some pretty juicy film news just fell into our laps today.
Yes, it did.
And I really wish I hadn't used the expression into our laps because that's very strangely applicable to the troubles of Harvey Weinstein. For those who don't know, Harvey Weinstein is, or I guess was now, a powerful producer, really on the independent market in Hollywood, and he's been in the news lately because essentially a couple of notable actresses and a lot of people came out and essentially said, yeah, he sexually harassed me, he asked me to do this, and essentially being a sexual predator in exchange for helping them with their careers. And I don't really want to delve into the details that much. You probably heard about it in the news. The biggest piece of the news was that he was out, the other day he was like, I'm going to seek help, and I've apologized for the way I behaved, and it was like, no, I'm pretty sure you're just saying that because you've been nailed, dude. And then today his board, the board of the Weinstein, what's his company named?
The Weinstein Company.
The Weinstein Company. Very simple. Well, they're probably going to change it soon because he was voted off the board. He's pushed out. It was just like in Spider-Man where they pushed out the Green Goblin.
Out, am I?
And they just say you're out, and they voted him out. He's gone.
Yep.
And I'm sure you feel the same way, Dustin. I mean, it serves him right.
Right.
If you're gonna, it's crazy because Hollywood is very I don't want to get too far into the double standard that I feel like is present with this sort of behavior. Like they excuse certain people, they don't excuse certain people. But I feel like if we just focus on Hollywood, this has been a problem for a long time, and it goes back way farther than Harvey Weinstein.
Oh yeah.
We had Megan Fox, a couple of years ago, talking about the casting couch, and somebody else was saying something about that. I mean, this has existed beforehand. And do you think the article I'm referencing is the Washington Post article by Stephanie Mary, and the headline is, "Will Harvey Weinstein's downfall change Hollywood's culture of silence around sexual abuse?" And I actually think it will. I'm optimistic about that. Yeah, what do you think?
I think he's powerful enough. I think he's a big enough name in Hollywood that it's going to cause a ripple effect. I think it's going to create sort of a fear in every other major studio head to kind of just rethink and kind of double check themselves, and maybe put some people in place that would hold them accountable or what have you. But I think that it's going to be a ripple effect, and rightfully so, because this, like you said, this predates Harvey. This predates our lifetimes. This goes all the way back to the beginning of Hollywood. You always hear these stories, and it became, it was big enough back then that it became sort of a stereotype that in order to get a job, you have to, do certain things, and that became a stereotype, which then became a joke. And, it's been the punchline of a lot of people's, misguided attempts at humor. But what I think it boils down to is this problem was never going to go away unless something major happened to cause fear, and to cause these men to think, look, no one's above reproach, or not reproach, no one's above the penalty of this act. This is going to come out, and when it does, there goes your career. So I hope a couple of things. One, I do hope that it changes things in Hollywood for the better, but I also hope that Harvey stays away. I hope nobody gets the courage, so to speak, to say, let's hire Harvey Weinstein, a disgraced, producer, and put him in charge of, this film that we're doing so that we can have his name.
Yeah.
Because I can see that happening too, where somebody, 3 years down the road is going to say, hey, remember that guy? He probably needs some work. And honestly, we need some press. So let's hire him, and it'll be like automatic buzz for our film. And so I can see that happening, but at the same time, I really hope that it doesn't. I hope he stays sort of outside of Hollywood and outside of the circle of power, so to speak.
That's a cool word, circle of power, that phrase.
It is.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, notable people came forward. And usually what happens is actresses will mention it. They say, oh, yeah, it happens, but I'm not going to name names.
Right.
And it's and people always ask, well, why not? And it's like, because I still feel like my career, I would not be able to get a job. The actresses felt, and some actors, Corey Feldman felt that, him and Corey Haim, talked about how his friend was raped. Now, obviously, it's mostly women that this is affecting, but it's not totally binary. But the idea was that there's not enough people who will back me up for this to affect any change. Yep. And even if it does, people might not hire me because they think I'll get them fired next. Right. And it's crazy because, I've been, sorry, not me personally, I've been, I observe, whenever these things happen, sometimes it ends up, or I suspect that it's just a money grab. Like, oh, that's not, legitimate accusation.
Right.
Because some people do abuse it. And because some people abuse sort of the public perception of this kind of stuff, whenever there's a legitimate claim, people don't listen.
Right.
And because they don't listen, actresses, whoever, victims, don't speak out. And then nothing happens. And then you have a guy like this who's been in Hollywood for 40 years, and his excuse is
doing this for that long.
Yeah, this is just, that was just the culture at the time. It's like, yeah, dude, well, back then people could smoke on airplanes, but that doesn't happen anymore either, does it?
Right. And that's a terrible excuse to say, well, it was accepted back then. It doesn't, because what you're saying is it wasn't moral back then. It was just accepted back then.
Yeah,
so
everyone was doing it.
Right. Which is ridiculous.
Anyway, good Lord, I'm sorry, I can't get this frog in my throat.
Hey, hold there.
Good riddance. I saw when I was pulling up this article, there's an article, Kevin Smith reportedly said he's ashamed that Harvey Weinstein's names aren't in any of his films.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm sure Tarantino probably has something to say about it too, although he's a creepy dude, but I genuinely don't think,
true.
I genuinely don't think Quentin Tarantino's, I have no reason to believe this, that he's innocent, but I just don't think because he's a creepy looking dude that he's a sexual predator.
Right, exactly.
Harvey Weinstein, not a creepy looking dude, is a sexual predator. So
correct.
All shapes and sizes, guys.
Right, exactly. But I'm glad that it's happening, and I'm glad that he's been removed.
Yes.
Because I could also see the company backing him and saying, "Oh, well, we're going to give him time," or whatever. And so I'm glad that action was taken. I'm glad that he was ousted. So
or this part, like, what evidence do you have? Like this going to court. And
exactly.
And it getting dragged out like the Cosby case, and so. I think because stuff like this is creeping up more lately, they were just like, Harvey, look, is this true? And he's like, I'm going to get help. They're like, oh, man. All right, we're going to hold a vote. We'll let you know, I guess.
Right.
And he started that company with his brother. I imagine his brother just recused himself.
I would imagine. Either that or he was like, nah, I hate him too.
Right. Yeah, he's just like, yeah, I don't know, whatever.
Right.
Well, who? Let me see here. I pulled up. There was another story that we had talked about.
Well,
Dustin, something's up with the founder of Screen Junkies.
yeah. So the founder of Screen Junkies, it came out today while we're talking about Harvey Weinstein, that Andy Signore, I guess is how you say his name.
Signore.
Signore,
I don't know.
has been fired from Screen Junkies. He's the founder, and it was also due to sexual harassment issues. So a lot of women came forward and said that he had harassed them and used his power as sort of the founder of this, media empire. I don't think you can say empire. Media conglomerate.
That sounds bigger.
It does. Media YouTube channel. Does that sound appropriately small?
Organization.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, but he evidently used his power and authority there to do that same thing, where he would harass women that worked for him and for his company, and basically hold it over their heads like, if you want to work, if you want a job, you have to let me talk to you in these ways, and you have to allow me to, do what I'm doing. And so the idea was like, okay, this is unfounded, is sort of the position, as I understand it, that Screen Junkies kind of initially took. And as more women came forward, it became increasingly evident that this was indeed a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And as of today, I believe the recording of this, October 9th, he has been removed from Screen Junkies. So he is no longer in any position there. So, I think I don't want to say that Harvey Weinstein is causing all of this. But, I think, or I hope that this causes some sort of trickle downstream where no matter what the company, no matter what its size, no matter what is going on there, I think the hope certainly is that as women come forward, people will be removed. And yeah, so all that to say, I mean, these two stories kind of broke around the same time, and then their two leaders were kind of forced out at the same time, and so I think that's a good sign.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Absolutely. Let's save the other topic. You know what? No, screw it. Let's do the other topic now.
okay.
Because that's just how it's going to be. Because this is also we talk about this kind of stuff all the time, you and I. God, USA Today cannot stop with those autoplay things. Stop. Now I have to catch it before it ruins the audio. The story is that Netflix, and this has been around for about a week or so. Maybe it broke right after we did the last show.
You're breathlessly waiting for the
Stop! Shut up. You're breathlessly waiting for. I'm waiting for the video to stop. Something about Stranger Things. Anyway, speaking of that, Netflix raising their prices again.
Yep.
Their two most popular plans, which is the HD 2 devices plan and the 4K 4 devices plan, are each going up. The 2 devices plan is going from $9.99 or from $8.99 a month to $9.99 a month, and the 4K is going up from I think 11. Is it going up from 11?
Yes.
$11.99 a month.
Yep.
To
$11.99.
$13.99. So there's two angles to this. One is, hey, it's not that much, and they got a lot of great content, so it's natural that they would raise their prices because they're putting out a lot of good original stuff like Gerald's Game and House of Cards and Orange is the New Black and Bojack Horseman.
Yep.
And then the other angle is, okay, but now we're starting to, I'm on both sides, Dustin. You tell me how you feel.
Okay.
I'm of the opinion, so Netflix, so now that we've cut the cord, services like this become more valuable. Yep. And a friend of ours from college commented on my Facebook post whenever I talked about this last time, and and he'd said, I said it from the beginning that at the end of the day, this would be nothing different than cable subscriptions because of the need and because of the market demand for streaming content, they're going to gradually increase their prices. And before you know it, you're subscribed to 4 different services and you're paying about the same a month as a standard cable package. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it's true. Because, so in a way, Netflix does have the juice to charge this. And the argument in this article on USA Today by Mike Snyder is that just sounds like a frat guy. Mike Snyder's here, guys.
Hey, everybody, Mike Snyder.
Hey, the Snide. He said his headline is the Netflix price hike probably is not the last for cord cutters.
Yep.
I do you agree? Because I do.
I do agree. I think that it's supply and demand, right? So as Netflix becomes a ubiquitous sort of company that every household in America will have a subscription to, which, is already, well on its way to that future. But as that happens, the price can't stay the same. I mean, it should, because technically they're not really doing much more. I mean, sure, they're doing some original material, but it's not like that cost shouldn't really come to the consumer, considering we're paying for, at least in my estimation, we're paying for access to a library which they maintain, and I just don't see how their prices are skyrocketing that much that they need to do this every year. But having said that, I can totally see why they would. And as a company, of course, as demand grows for your product, it's not supply and demand, because supply doesn't really dwindle. But as demand increases, price increases. It just makes sense. They know that we can charge more because people become reliant on us. Yeah. And regardless of whether the supply is a physical product or just a thing that you log into, right? There's always that feeling of, well, we can charge more and people will still pay. Right. Now they will get to a point that people will start cutting from Netflix. And on top of that, what I feel like is going to end up happening too is, and I think you're already going to start to see that with Disney, the individual studios are going to pull their content from Netflix and create their own individual streaming services, so that sort of what I see in the future is Netflix, the price is coming back down. Yep. Because they lose Disney and Warner Brothers and Miramax and all of these companies. Well, I guess Miramax is Disney, whatever. Mm-hmm. The point is they lose all these companies because they will pull their own content. So let's use Disney as an example. They're already doing this. They're going to pull their Marvel and Star Wars content from Netflix and launch their own streaming service that you have to pay a subscription to. So in the future, it's not going to be we're paying for Netflix and Hulu.
All right, wait. You were star screaming. Say something.
Hey, everybody. I'm testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay, you're fine. I don't know what.
We're good. Okay.
You were like subscription.
Maybe I just did that with my voice, Hooper. You don't know.
I thought you were having a stroke, Dustin. I was worried.
But we're not going to be just paying for one subscription service or Netflix and Hulu. We're going to be paying for Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and Disney and Warner Brothers and Sony. And we're going to be paying all of these things. So essentially what it's going to end up in the future is the prices of these are going to drop because the catalog from each will drop. But in the end, we're still going to be paying more than we currently are because we're paying $10 to Disney and $10 to Netflix and $10 to Sony and $10 and $10 and $10 and $10. And then all of a sudden, we're no better off because here we are, $100 out of pocket every month anyway. That's sort of the eventual future that I see because Disney realizes the value that Netflix has and they want in on it. So, it just makes sense. But it's sad either way because, like I said, the a lot of these programs, as I understand, that Netflix has, like let's say The Office, it's a long-term deal. They've already paid for the rights to that. They're not paying anymore. So the cost going up for us doesn't make sense because they're locked into that price for the U.S. office until 2020 or 2025 or whatever the case is. And so really the price hike is just because A, they can, and B, they'll justify it because they say we're going to be producing original material, but the average person isn't going to digest that original material at a rate large enough to justify the cost. So, for instance, I don't watch Orange is the New Black. I don't watch Bojack Horseman. I don't watch. And what I do watch isn't enough to justify paying $20, $30, $40 a month.
That's my next question. What is the ceiling for you with price for Netflix? I mean, I assume you have the same plan I do, which is because I'm selfish. No, because it's the most standard one, which is you have streaming only, right?
Yep.
And you probably have since they hiked up the DVD combo price, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. And so what is your ceiling? How much more are you willing to pay for that service?
I can't see me paying $20 a month. I think that's too much.
Mine was much lower. Mine's $1 more.
Really? Well, no. I mean, but the truth is, like, just so. Let's say I'm paying $16 a month. I'm not happy. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not comfortable. So I'm not going to do it for long. I would not immediately cut when they say, okay, it's $16 a month, but I probably will within a few months.
Right.
And that's the next problem that Netflix is going to come across is the people like us who have been with Netflix for as long as we have are going to start seeing like, why would we pay this when we were getting it for so much cheaper even last year? And it's not like Amazon, where Amazon says you're paying for Prime, but this year we're throwing in grocery and next year we're throwing in this. And they just keep like adding to the value of Amazon Prime outside of the streaming service. So I don't know, but I do think that $20 a month is the point where there's not a way in the world I'm going to be subscribed to Netflix. Well, not a single way.
And the thing is, like, that's only if they're the only streaming service you're subscribed with, because then you're right. That's your go-to every day. You're using it, like your cable package. But when you have, hold on a second, sorry. Sorry for that long pause, guys. Something's wrong with me. When it becomes 3 or 4 separate services that are each in and of themselves as expensive as a standard cable package, then you got to ask yourself, well, why did I cut the cord? I still believe it's better to pay for all those services instead of cable. I think you just get a lot more.
Yeah.
But I just don't believe, unless you don't have a social life or kids or even a romantic partner, that you can watch that much content enough to justify that purchase.
You can't.
I mean, I don't have Hulu.
I do, and there's more value in that for me right now.
You think so? Okay. So one of the things this article, we got to move on a second, but one of the things this article mentions is like it might embolden people, other services, to raise their prices. They mentioned Amazon hasn't had a price hike in 3 years. They haven't changed the amount of a Prime membership. And talking about how their Netflix's main competition here is probably HBO. And then so it'll be interesting when Disney actually comes out with its service and sets its price, because that's going to be the next thing that sort of throws this whole thing for a loop, and either stuff's coming down or it's going up. But people like me are going to eventually go, okay, I like Netflix,
Enough's enough.
But I'm going to kill it because HBO cycles through content faster, and I'm not in danger of losing entire series that I'm watching at the drop of a hat.
Well, what's funny is this has already happened sort of inversely, where Hulu announced, I guess today, that they're going to drop their price to $5.99 a month for new users. Wow. I guess I don't know if that's for the first year or I mean, it's a limited term,
right?
But they're hoping that people will drop Netflix and move to Hulu. So they're actually dropping their price. And I'll tell you what's interesting to me about Hulu. And if Netflix went this way, I wouldn't be too mad about it, because at the end of the day, I'm saving money. Hulu has ads. And so if you're watching like Samurai Jack, like I am right now, where the commercials typically would be, there are ads. And you know, sometimes that's like 70 seconds of ads, sometimes it's 90 seconds, sometimes it's like 15 seconds. And I don't know what the algorithm is they have that sort of chooses the length of the ad block. But they do have ads. Now, if Netflix went with something a little less invasive and just said, look, we're going to have ads, but it's going to be like, okay, I want to watch, you know, episode 5 of The Office, and I turn that on, and as soon as I click it, I have to watch 90 seconds of ads. I'm not as mad about that, because at the end of the day, they can turn around and make money from, say, BMW or whoever, you know, Jeep, and then all of a sudden my prices go down. Right. So if I'm saving money from that, I'm not mad about that. What I am mad about would be if those commercial breaks are as long as they are on broadcast. So we're talking like, you know, 5, 6, 7 minutes sometimes. Well, that's not true, but I don't know.
Thinking radio.
I know, I'm thinking radio. Nevertheless, you know, 3 minutes of commercials.
Yeah, 3:10 or so.
Right. If we're talking about 3 minutes commercials every 10 minutes, that's too much. That's invasive. That's no different than me having a cable subscription. Right. But if what we're talking about is 90 seconds or 60 seconds of commercials, and that happens at the beginning and the end of every title, or that happens at the beginning and the middle of every title, or what have you, I'm not as mad about that. Now, Hulu doesn't do that on their movies. They only do that on television. If Netflix followed the similar model and had, you know, ads that were less invasive, and that resulted in a lower price per month for me, I'm okay with it. Right. How do you feel about ads offsetting the cost, Hooper?
It depends, man. It depends on the placement. Sometimes you watch stuff and they'll run an ad right before the credits roll, so you stick around because you're like, is there another thing? And they come out of this commercial and it's like, produced by this person. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. Right. You know, and so I don't know. I think if I'm paying, I don't really want ads. That's just my feeling. I'm okay with FX now having ads because they're pretty quick, and sometimes you can do the interactive ones where you can skip through them faster. But if I'm paying, I essentially expect no ads. And if I got to pay $2 more a month for no ads, I'm okay with that. So I appreciate Hulu's angle, but it's not for me.
Okay. Now, just so you know, too, Hulu does have a more expensive subscription plan that removes ads. That's not the plan that I have, because again, if it's between like if it's a $3 per month thing, right? I guess I'd have to watch a lot of Hulu in order to feel like my time is being wasted. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like as little as I actually really watch it. It doesn't bother me $3 worth. Right. So.
Well, that's interesting. It'll be intriguing to see how this develops. Yeah. We'll just have to see. Speaking of Netflix, that leads us into our review today. Dustin, you were the one who why don't you tell us about this film?
So, I watched this week Jerry Before Seinfeld, which is a Netflix original, and it came out just this year. It's part of I believe it's a three stand-up special deal that Netflix made with Jerry Seinfeld. So this is, you know, the first of 3 original things that Jerry is doing, and I think they even asked him to do a television show as well, so I think he may be working on that, which, by the way, just as an aside, is super mind-blowing because that guy never has to work another day in his life. Sure. So the fact that he's doing this at all just means that he wants to be doing it. Right. I think that's a good sign. Yeah. So Jerry Before Seinfeld is, as I understand it, a collection of material, jokes, and stand-up material that Jerry created from his, you know, first stand-up gig on to, you know, his first appearance on Johnny Carson. So it's everything from in that span of time. So all the jokes that we're hearing in this special, he originally told, when he was much younger, before Seinfeld, before his first television appearance. It's recycled material. Some of it I've heard before because I've YouTubed the crap out of Jerry Seinfeld. But at the end of the day, it serves as almost it's like an interesting time capsule where instead of going back and seeing what things were, it's seeing the things that were in a new light because he's telling them the way he would tell them today. It's almost like you got Michelangelo to repaint the Sistine Chapel. Sounds like a bad idea. Could be kind of interesting to see. Right. How would it be different now with the same subject matter, with the same materials? How do you do it now? And it's just a little bit different. So what you will see here, like I said, some of the jokes I'd heard before, but there's a new twist. There's a little bit of a nuance to it that makes it feel fresh. And then in between this stand-up special that Jerry does, there are little sort of, I don't know, mini documentaries or like mini vignettes that sort of document his childhood and his early career path, and it's super cool. It is a stand-up special first and foremost. So if you're not into stand-up specials, then I guess steer clear. But I had a really good time with it. I watched it with my fiance and we laughed our butts off. Like, we're both big Seinfeld fans. We enjoy not only his material but the way he delivers it. Mm-hmm. And so I guess we're predisposed to like it. But I don't think if you hate Seinfeld that this is going to sway you and be like, oh, he's actually pretty good. But I do think that it's going to be one of those things where if you do already like Seinfeld, you're going to like this. And if you're like so-so about Seinfeld, you're going to be so-so about this. So yeah, what did you think, Hooper? Did you watch this?
Yeah, I did. Same. I mean, it was just. It's always a pleasure to hear him. I keep thinking about the way he looks at the world, and it's great to hear a joke from a comedian and then go, God, I never thought of it that way. And I don't hear that very much these days. A lot of times I hear comedians think of stuff that I already have picked up on. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's funny. I mean, you deliver it better than I probably would on stage, but like, your thought doesn't interest me. What else do you have, sir?
Right, exactly.
Seinfeld looks at things differently. And it's not just the delivery that's funny. The premise is already good. So you're paying attention. Other than his strengths as a comedian, I mean, it was it was a nice little special. And I didn't know there was going to be 2 more of them. That's cool. Yeah, I mean it's 1 hour. It's not a big time investment. It's it's going to make you laugh, and it's right there on Netflix. And if you didn't unsubscribe, you should check it out.
Right. Yeah, no, it's an easy watch. It's one of my favorite things about Seinfeld is how easily he picks up on human behavior in a way that's so obvious, but we never think about. So like an example comes to mind, and I always hate talking through like stand up because I don't want to spoil punchlines and whatever, but or overanalyze it. But there's like a point where he's pantomiming lifting a couch with his dad, and that whole sequence is hilarious to me because everybody does what he's talking about, and he just picks up on these things that I don't really think about, but everyone does, and everyone knows. And I had a really good time with it. I thought it was great. I'm interested to see what he does next. If I did have to, be critical about one thing, I do wish that the documentary portion of it was a little more in depth.
Yeah.
Got a little more deep, I guess that's what I was expecting. I was expecting maybe, okay, now let's go learn about Jerry. Yeah. But it was really more of here's like a brief Wikipedia synopsis of my life.
Right.
And so you don't really learn anything, or I mean, even if you don't know it, you don't really, it doesn't really change the way you see Jerry, the way that documentaries often, make you think differently about people or things. It doesn't do that. But at the end of the day, go into it, not like I did, but go into it and just know this is a comedy special. And there's going to be, interspersed in that tiny little mini documentary vignettes that are not deep.
Not deep at all.
Not deep at all.
Still interesting, but not as much as we're hoping for.
Right.
But
right.
yeah, I mean, if you came for the laughs, you'll be satisfied.
Yeah.
There's enough documentary to entice you to
Yeah.
maybe stick around for the other two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what's coming out in theaters this weekend.
Yeah.
So if you check out Fandango, the biggest project, the only one that I was really that interested in just from the outset in large theaters was The Foreigner, starring Jackie Chan. And the reason being because it stars Jackie Chan.
Right.
I loved Jackie Chan growing up.
Me too.
It was weird. I don't know. It's easy. I loved all his stunt work. I loved the fights. It was great. But then as an adult, I appreciate them now because you think about what he accomplishes as a performer. So not only does he, and has he for decades, accomplish great action sequences, but he does them in very long takes.
Yep.
With a lot of complicated stunt work that he does himself. So that's two things. He does it himself, long takes, and they're usually elaborate. Like I always say, he's like jumping through ladders and doing, just incredibly well-timed stunts that are really creative and not just running the mill like, oh, I'm hold up boards and he'll punch through them. Like he's wrapping his coat around people and fighting people with an umbrella and at the same time doing these weird little flourishes with them. There's comedy in there too. And the most important thing he does in all of these sequences is he makes you fearful for his character. It's not like other martial artists where you're like, oh, this guy's invincible. He's such a badass. Jackie Chan is a mega badass. But he still makes you believe through all of this stuff that he could be hurt. And if he's really not careful, he'll get seriously hurt or killed. And so he accomplishes all this crucial stuff to keep you invested in the character, invested in the action, amused by the comedy, and stimulated by the creativity. And I just think he's brilliant for that reason. This movie looks like it's a revenge type of movie. So Jackie Chan hadn't done really a big movie really an action film in a while. I haven't seen him around lately. I think the last thing I saw him in was the new Karate Kid with Jaden Smith, maybe. Yeah. And he didn't do that much, Right. So this one, I mean, this dude, how old is Jackie Chan? He's like 65, right? I mean, he's old.
Yeah, he's up there for sure.
Will you find out how old he is? I
will. I'm on it.
Jackie Chan, and in this film, he is kicking ass. He's doing. I mean, he's a little more serious than he has been in the past because he's avenging.
Yeah, 63.
He's 63. Okay, so he's avenging a family member in this film. So he's a bit more serious, a bit more dour, but all of that flair is right there, and I see it on the screen. And if it's anything like his previous work, I'm so on board. What about you, Dustin? Let me find out who directed this thing.
It's Martin Campbell.
Oh!
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm on board just because it's Martin Campbell, it's Pierce Brosnan, it's Jackie Chan, all that good stuff. Like you, I'm a big fan of Jackie Chan. More so as an adult than as a kid because, like you said, just you can see the craft better as an adult. So yeah, I'm excited for this. On top of that, strangely enough, so my brother lives overseas and he's already seen this film and says it's very good. So awesome. He said, well, let me actually quote him. He said, "It's very good." Well, it's good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. So I don't know what that means, but still, I'm excited to see it. I think it'll be really cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome. I think Martin Campbell's great. I mean, of course, which Bond film did he direct? Didn't he direct Goldeneye?
And Casino Royale.
And Casino Royale, right. So Casino Royale's got some great action in it. I think, of course, being a more recent work of his, I mean, Martin Campbell's style seems to be a lot of on-camera and great practical stunt work, which is great if your star is Jackie Chan.
Right.
And not great if the majority of your film takes place on a green screen with Ryan Reynolds.
Correct.
But yeah, The Foreigner looks great. Did you see anything else that caught your eye, Dustin? Because I got a couple of, not a couple of things.
Not really.
Yeah.
But that's definitely, I do really want to see that. So
Yeah, man. I just want to talk real quick. I mean, now, tell me something. So This weekend, or right now, actually, at the Crescent Theater in Mobile, downtown, they're playing Battle of the Sexes, which I believe is already in wide release. But if you can, go out to the Crescent, because that's a great theater. The experience is great. It's really a movie lover's theater experience. But are you interested in the film Battle of the Sexes? We never talked about this.
I'm interested in seeing Steve Carell do things in general. I'm of two minds, because it's like, while I'm interested in seeing Steve Carell, I'm not super, over the moon in like seeing him in this film. So I don't know. It's one of those weird things. It's like Foxcatcher, right? Foxcatcher looked okay. I wasn't super excited for it, but I had to see Steve Carell in it. It's the same way here. If I see it, it'll be because of him. Yeah. And if I don't, it'll be despite him.
I'm not interested in the film.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know what else to say about that movie. God, sorry, Max. But if you're going to go see it and you are interested, I recommend the Crescent Theater. There's beer. There's people who aren't going to talk probably as much. And there's a bunch of cool restaurants downtown also in Mobile.
Yeah.
So sorry, Dustin, you're missing out. But if you're a resident of Mobile, you are not. So check out the Crescent Theater downtown, crescenttheater.com, CRESCENT theater.com. What could I not spell? Letterbox? Is that what it was?
Yes. It was like LETRBROXD.
BOXD. Or
BOXD.
Sorry, that's correct. Sorry, what did I say?
I think it said BROX.
Yeah, letterboxed.
and it was like only one T, if I remember right. It was like LETR.
Lederbroxed.
Lederbroxed.
All right. Well,
yeah.
That's about all the time we got. I'm in the middle right now of rewatching Dead Poet Society.
Yep.
Starring Robin Williams, and talk about a good film. I might chat about that next show. God, that's a wonderful film. So good.
Hopefully by the next show, I will be done with the original run of Samurai Jack. Okay. I would like to talk about that before I move on to the final season. Maybe we'll see.
Okay.
Maybe I'll wait.
Yeah, I'm as soon as I'm done with Dead Poets, I'll probably finish up Westworld season 1 because I'm behind. I don't know when season 2 is coming out, but I'm sure it's soon. And then, speaking of Netflix and Bojack Horseman, season 4 dropped like a month ago, and I was not notified.
Really?
So now I gotta go watch that.
Sorry, I should have told you.
Yeah, that's a great show, so I'm excited to keep on board with that. But anyway, everybody, thank you for tuning in if you're listening live, and if you're not, you should have, because it was cool, but you just listened to it later, and it was probably just as cool. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you subscribed, sorry about the name. We were gonna change it, and then we were like, and so the channel name changed, but the logo is it's the same. So if you want to follow us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. It's DHS Broadcast. That stands for Dustin Hooper Show. which we are not called officially.
Right.
But that's the name. DHS
Yes.
Broadcast. I believe we're DHS Broadcast on Twitter. But if you just want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Connor Dempsey, CONNER_DEMPSEY. Dustin, and you are?
At Dustin Weldon, DUSTIN WELDON.
There you go. That's us on Twitter, guys. And so thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And we will see you guys next week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.